with a sunshiny smile, heard the roar of a plane as it sailed through the sky. To a playmate she cried with a bright twinkling eye, my daddy rides that ship in the sky. Oh, my daddy rides that ship in the sky. My daddy rides that ship in the sky. Mama's not afraid and neither am I, 'cause my daddy rides that ship in the sky. Then a pug-nosed kid, as he kicked up his heel, says, my daddy works in the iron and the steel. Yes, my daddy makes planes so they fly through the sky, and that's what keeps your daddy up there so high. Oh, that's what keeps your daddy up there so high. That's what keeps your daddy up there so high. If you're not afraid, then neither am I.
We're all family under one sky. We're family under one sky. Hallelujah. All family under one sky. We're family under one sky. Now I'll sing a line and you sing it back, okay? We're people. We're people. We're animals. We're animals. We're flowers and birds in flight. I said we're people. We're animals. We're flowers and birds in flight all together, and we're all family under one sky. We're family under one sky. In here, we're all family under one sky. Family under one sky. We've got dark skin. We've got light skin. We've got straight hair and curly too. We speak English. We speak Spanish. We're different, but we're the same. Here you go. And we're all a family under one sky. We're a family under one sky. We're all a family under one sky. We're a family.
There's loads of books and loads of tales about Ananse, so be sure and check some of them out at the library. This is one where Ananse is not so much a trickster as he can't control himself. They ever talk about self-control with you here at school? He has a problem with self-control. One I want to tell you is about Ananse and the pot of beans. She said, Ananse, I have to go to the store and get some more spices. You continue doing your work, and when I get back, I'll put in the spices and we'll cook dinner and we'll have a wonderful meal. But Ananse, she said, whatever you do, don't go and touch those beans. They're very hot and you could burn yourself. What did I say, Ananse? He said, I won't touch those. He found himself standing right in front of that pot of beans. Well, she said, don't touch the beans. It won't hurt if I smell them. Took the top off. Oh, Ananse loved beans. He said, it won't hurt if I just take a taste. Grandma doesn't have to know. Took it out of the bowl. He blew on it. It was good. Maybe just one more. Maybe another. I've had 3. The 4th one's not going to make any difference. Well, Ananse got to thinking he'd like some more of that, and he wanted it to cool faster, so he took off his hat and he put the beans in the hat. Well, the birds suddenly flew in the kitchen window where Ananse was, and the neighbors started pounding on the door. They said, Ananse, let us in, let us get those birds, they're eating Grandma's beans. They were pounding and pounding, and Ananse thought, what am I going to do with this hat full of beans? I don't want them to see me with this hat full of beans. Well, I'll bet you can predict what Ananse did, can't you? He took that hat full of beans, which had not had time to cool, and put it on his head and opened the door. There stood Ananse with that hat full of hot beans on his head. And the neighbors came in and they chased the birds out of there and they started to leave. And there was Ananse. He was standing there with sweat dripping down his face, looking like this. They said, Ananse, what happened? Did those birds hurt you? He said, no, I've just been sweating a lot. I've been working all morning. You can go now, I'm okay. But they were concerned. They said, Ananse, you're sure they didn't hurt you? Ananse was starting to cry from the pain. At this point, Ananse couldn't stand still. He started shaking his hat to get the beans to move around and going back on one foot and then the other. They said, Ananse, that's a wonderful dance. What do you call that? He said, it's the hat shaking dance. It's the hat shaking dance. Shake your hat. Oh!
They have lots of wonderful markets in Latin America. There's a food market. There's a market with lots of crafts like I've got there. There's my sister-in-law and my nephews in a market in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. And here's a song about going to the market to buy some musical instruments. There's José Luis Orozco. This comes from a book of his called Diez Deditos and Other Playwrights and Action Songs from Latin America. Here's another book with other great songs there. There'll be a guitar, there'll be a clarinet and clarinete, there'll be a violin, and then a cello, which is pronounced violon in Spanish, and there'll be a tutu, a tambor, or a hand drum.
En la pulga de San Jose, yo compré una guitarra. And then you play your guitar. Can you hold up your hands like you're playing a guitar? One hand goes out like that and the other strums. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-da, la guitarra. Now you guys can play too back there if you like. Ta-da-ta-da-ta-da, la guitarra. Then sing, by usted, which means you go to. By usted, a la pulga de San Jose. You go to la pulga de San Jose. That's it. This goes under your chin. This goes up in your hand. Hold up your violin. You need a bow to play it. A stick with some horse's hair. Hold that with this hand. Lean, lean, violin, tun, tun, el tun, tun. Lon, lon, violon. Lean, lean, violin. Nette, 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 clarinette. Tada, 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 la guitarra. By usted, a la pulga de San Jose. By usted, a la pulga de San Jose. The Irish eat lots of potatoes, and in the old days they used to really depend on those potatoes. And this is a story about Jamie O'Rourke and the big potato. Jamie O'Rourke was the laziest man in Ireland. He would do anything to keep from working. He would sit around all day, and his wife Eileen would say, Jamie O'Rourke, we'll have nothing to eat this winter if you don't get up and pick out the praties.
To himself he says, with Eileen sick in bed, there'll be no praties. With no praties, there'll be no food. With no food, I'll starve to death. There's no telling how soon death will be knocking at my door. I'd best go and confess my sins to Father O'Malley so that I can go to heaven when I die. And so in the middle of the night, Jamie O'Rourke got up out of bed and started down the hill to the church. Well, about halfway down the hill, he heard a little singing and tapping. He come up nice and close, and he pulled back the ferns. And there, sitting in the middle of the moonlight, was a leprechaun. Well, Jamie knew just what to do. He grabbed that fella by the coattails and held him up in the air. "Let me go! Let me go!" said the little fella. "Not on your life," said Jamie. "Not until you take me to your pot of gold." "Oh, Mr. Mortal Man," he says, "I'm just starting out in the trade and I've only got 2 pieces of gold. Won't you take a wish instead?" "A wish? And what would I be wishing for?" says Jamie, "me whose wife is sick in bed and can't get up and I'm about to starve to death." Well, when Jamie O'Rourke got home and told Eileen what he had done, she says, "Jamie O'Rourke, you're not only the laziest man in Ireland, but you're a fool as well."
What are you gonna do with this so-called magic potato seed? "You'll see," says Jamie. "I'll plant it and you'll see." She did see, for in a few weeks, up out of the ground came an enormous potato. 150 years ago in Ireland, the potatoes got a disease called the blight. It came across the ocean on the ships, and all their potatoes turned bad. You couldn't eat them.
It spread like wildfire across the Irish countryside. If you read Nory Ryan's song by Patricia Reilly Giff, as in many cases with a historical novel, you kind of get an inside feel for it. She discovers it one day when she hears this scream across the fields, and then she smells this stench coming toward her. The scream was a neighbor, a distant neighbor, discovering that all their potatoes were ruined, and the stench was the stench of that fungus coming to her. And the very next day, she discovers it in her own garden. When she walks through the garden, this brown ooze comes out on her skirt. Well, they pick the only potatoes that they can find that are still looking good. By the time they get in the house, those potatoes too are spotted, so they begin cutting out the spots of the potato. But by the time they get the spots out and they put the rest of it in the pot with water, the water turns black with the fungus.
And after a while, what most of them had to do, because they were starving to death, is go to America. They were very poor. And what made it worse was that the English people in the country next door owned almost all the homes. And when they couldn't earn any money, they were kicking them out of the homes. So they didn't have any home, they didn't have any food. And things got worse and worse. And so what 1 million of them did was they boarded a ship and they came to the United States. It was not a comfortable ride on that ship. They were stuck way down below, had a miserable time. Finally, they arrived in the United States and they looked for work. And what many of them did for work was they helped to build the railroads which were coming across the United States at that time.
And they had a work song that they loved to sing called Paddy on the Railroad. It's got a great chorus. In 1841, I put me corduroy breeches on, I put me corduroy breeches on to work upon the railway. Fill-a-me-ory-ory-ay, 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 to work upon the railway. And that's your chorus.
Fill-a-me-ory-ory-ay, fill-a-me-ory-ory-ay, to work upon the railway. What is a folk tale? Let's see who knows what it is.
It is something like not real, but it could happen.
Yeah, stop right there, okay?
It's a story that's been passed down from generation to generation.
There you go, okay. The idea with a folk tale is how it's come along. There's all kinds of different folk tales, but the basic idea is
It's been passed along from generation to generation. And the reason that there are all these folk tales around is that if you go back 100 or 150 years ago, all the things that we use, all the devices like TVs and movie theaters and smartphones and computers, all that stuff, record players and radios, none of that was here. If you wanted to hear a story, somebody had to tell you that story right there where you were sitting. And so that's what people would do in the evening, was they would tend to sit around and sing old songs and tell old stories. And they had learned them from when they were kids. And they grew up and they told them to their kids. This is a banjo.
I've never heard one.
And instruments change just like songs do. And the banjo has changed a lot. The banjo came to this country from Africa. When black people came to this country, they brought a little banjo with them. There are still, in Africa, there's about 60 different instruments that resemble the banjo, that have a round head with a skin over it usually, and a neck with some strings on it. But now the banjo is used a lot by all kinds of people who like to play mountain music and bluegrass. Now here's an old mountain song, and it's real easy to sing. I wish I was a mole in the ground. Oh, I wish I was a mole in the ground. If I was a mole in the ground, I'd root that mountain down. And I wish I was a mole in the ground. Can you try that thing? I wish I was a mole in the ground. Sing it again. Oh, I wish I was a mole in the ground. Oh, you sing great. If I was a mole in the ground, I'd root that mountain down. And I wish I was a mole in the ground. To see if we can make up a verse to this song. All you need is an animal and a place that that animal is. Maybe what it does. Who's got an idea for an animal? Okay? Ooh. How about if I was a lion in the den? What would I do? What would I do if I was a lion in the den?
Hunt for food. I'll bring the zebra in.
I what?
I bring a zebra in.
Bring a zebra in. Well, the lion's got to eat, and that rhymes. He's got a good sense of rhyme. Let's do that one. I say go with that one. I wish I was a lion in the den. Oh, I wish I was a lion in the den. If I was a lion in the den, I'd bring a zebra in. And I wish I was a lion in the den. Let's try one. Now, there's different kinds of folk tales, and I'm going to give you some samples of them. We sometimes call them genres or subgenres, and one is the tall tale. Now, a tall tale is partly true. It starts with a real situation that would actually happen. And very often, usually in fact, the teller kind of acts as if he didn't know that he was stretching the truth. He kind of acts like he's telling you the truth, but he's really exaggerating. And he's telling it just for the fun of it. He doesn't believe it. He's just telling it for the fun of it. You know, one of the things we like to do in reading now in school is get kids to read nonfiction, which is an information book, and fiction, which is a story made up on the same topic. It's fun to do that about animals, because animals sometimes have stories that have been made up about them a long time ago. And I'm going to tell you a story about a possum. Now, who can tell me something that a possum does that helps it survive from its predators? It plays dead, that's right. And the reason it does that is that when a predator comes to eat it, if it thinks it's already dead, it thinks, oh, that's not fresh meat, that's not very good, it's been laying around for a while. I was out in the swamp and I was trapped all the day. I come back into the camp and I say to my wife, "What you have fixed to eat? I am very hungry." She say, "Not much, vieux, not much. I pick up a few shrimp and a crab, and with them I make a gumbo." A gumbo is a soup. "Ah, chérie," I say, "a gumbo is very little for a man fatigued like me, a man tired like me. Why you not kill a chicken?" She say, "We only have one chicken left, and she lay an egg every day. It would be a mortal sin kill a beast like that." Just then, I hear a out in the backyard. I throw open the door, I look out, and there is a rat de bois, and he's got our last hen by the neck. I run out in the yard, I pick up a stick, I give him a grand coup de bâton. I put his feet in the air. I say to my wife, look, the bon Dieu is bon, the good Lord is good. Now we're gonna have meat to eat. So I take the hide over to Zebby. He the fur trader in the next camp. He gonna take that hide and he gonna sell it. He take that hide and he give me a bottle of wine for trade. My wife, she fix up a little bread, she fix up a stew, and everything come good. A little while later, I open the oven door to see how everything is going. Now maybe you not believe this, but I open that oven and there is the rat de bois. He's standing up in the pan. He had eat the potatoes, he had drink the grease, he come running out the door, he run between my wife's legs, knock over the bread, knock over the wine, he go running out through the door. He grab that hand and he go running off. And that's not all. That night, he go back into Zebby's camp, he take the hide off of the stretching board, and he put it back on. Now that's something, huh? And while he was there, he ate up the stew, and he went back to Zebby, who had his hide, and he took that hide off of the stretching board, he put it back on, and he ran off. Now, could a possum really do that? No, it's an exaggeration, but it's based on something true, which is that a possum plays dead. Little community center way back in the mountains, and it rained and poured, and when I went to drive out of there, I got to that valley, and the water was about this deep. I couldn't get through it. I was waterbound. Can you sing that with me?
Yeah.
Waterbound and it can't get home. Waterbound and it can't get home. Waterbound and it can't get home. Down in North Carolina. And imagine a long time ago, and you were an immigrant who came to this country from another place, like many, many people did, and you had a farm, and a lot of things went wrong, but you did the best you could, and you felt like the land. First came to this land,